For more on this, we can now talk to Robert Gutsche from Lancaster University in the UK. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, this firing, Jeff Sessions being fired by Donald Trump, didn't exactly come as a surprise. Some would say it's been a long time coming. Do you think that Robert Mueller could have been preparing for this day? And if so, how might he have been preparing?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. You know, there's been some rumors and some hints by Donald Trump himself that if it wasn't going to be Jeff Sessions, it was going to be somebody else with a high rank within the investigation who would be going away. So I think the investigation sped up. It's been narrowed. They're not releasing as much information as maybe we'd want them to, and I think part of that is to keep it tight. To keep it close to the people who are focusing the most on this, because Donald Trump is one of the most unpredictable people, as we know, and we don't know who's gonna be next to go out the door that could affect this investigation.
Now, Matthew Whitaker is in the job temporarily. He has criticised this inquiry before, so you've now got top Democrats calling for him, in turn, to remove himself from the probe. What are the chances of that happening, do you think?
Well, I think that's the trick of the interim, right? I mean, we don't know exactly where Donald Trump is going with his placements. It's completely natural and after a midterm for people to come and go from cabinets, but something like this being the day after, which is also the start of the 2020 presidential bid, anything is up in the air at this point. I think what we're going to see is that Democrats continue to push for restricting, this sort of behavior and trying to find somebody who can do this job objectively. I think they were happy with Jeff Sessions, but that was because he was vocal about that. And what we're seeing is the more you're vocal about your concerns about Donald Trump or your concerns about the presidency, the more at risk you are, especially if you're a career politician.
Now, let's say this probe were to go away, if Matthew Whitaker makes it happen or his successor, then would it disappear entirely, or is there a chance that this could be taken up perhaps by a state, an attorney general in a state, rather than at a federal level?
Well, I think what really has to be answered here is through a cost-benefit analysis, right? I mean, so there could be multiple avenues for getting an investigation done, depending on where the jurisdiction is and depending on where some of these activities might have happened that have been alleged. But the issue is it really in the best interest of the Democrats to push for this? And how far should they push? How much social distance is this creating between them and the electorate? So there could be legal ramifications depending on which jurisdiction can talk about this and where some of these activities went down, if they were in Trump Tower, if they were someplace else. But at the end of the day, the Democrats are going to have to pay for the consequences of this, because Donald Trump, even if this goes away, won't forget how vocal he can be in opposition to Democrats, and that's going to really hurt them for a 2020 presidential nominee, but also for keeping control of the spaces that they have already.
Now, I'd like to change subjects. I'd like to talk to you about Donald Trump's angry exchange at the White House yesterday with CNN reporter Jim Acosta. So let's take a listen to that exchange, and then we'll come back to you.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question. Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this?
Mr. Gutsche, Jim Acosta has now lost his accreditation to the White House. Sarah Sanders says it's because he touched a female member of staff. CNN says that's a lie. Now, we saw that was a heated exchange. There have been heated exchanges before, but what do you think this particular one says about the state of relations between the media and Donald Trump? Have we reached a new low?
Well, it's those scenes are frankly unbelievable. You're right. There have been interactions between high-ranking journalists and presidents in the past. That's not new. In fact, that's to be expected and appreciated when those things happen. They're important exchanges when that happens. But when Donald Trump, as a president, sends out somebody to remove a microphone from a journalist who's asking a very good question, and when Donald Trump later, or also in that press conference, refers to a black journalist as being racist for asking about the rise of white nationalism, which Donald Trump has been to varying degrees connected to in terms of his rhetoric. When you see that they're using force now to suppress journalists, in addition to removing their credentials, in addition to calling them racist, it really is a new low point beyond calling for violence against journalists. And I've been doing this my whole life and never thought that I would see journalists treated that way at a White House briefing. It really is something astounding.
Astounding indeed. All right. Thank you very much, Robert Gutsche. We'll have to leave it there for now. Thanks for your time and your analysis.